Hey everybody, welcome to what may very well be the final Survivorman director's commentary. I've been doing a bunch of these and I thought I had them all done. And someone mentioned, I never saw you do one on the pilots. And I thought I did. And I looked, couldn't find them. So as you know, I already put up one, which is the winter pilot. This we're about to watch. This is it. This is where it all started. So my final Survivorman director's commentary is landing on the very first Survivorman ever. In fact, it wasn't called Survivorman. It was called 1 Week in the Wilderness with Les Stroud, which I did for the Daily Planet in Canada on the Discovery Channel. And the idea was that there's a whole long story that I've told before on how it all came about. And I'm kind of tempted to tell you the story now, but I know you want me to get into it, and so I will just get into it. So we're going to watch now the very first one that I ever shot, ever. Now, the whole idea of setting this up, the original version, this is a re-edited version that Barry Farrell did later on when I said, let's clean up the original pilot so we can release it as part of the Survivorman package. It was set up in a, it was, nobody ever done anything like this. So it was the early days, and so I threw a dart at a map. I had a Canadian sort of media personality who came up there to interview me and all this sort of stuff. I knew what I was up against in terms of survival, and I had filmed myself with a year-long expedition I did, the Snowshoes in Solitude, but it was definitely going to be this new foray into a career for me. So this first one, I was paid $11,000 to go up north and fly in and film this whole thing, edit this thing, bring it back to the Discovery Channel Canada for their flagship news show. And they played it every 5 minutes, every day, Monday to Friday. And they didn't know what to expect. It gave them the best ratings they'd had in 3 years. They were over the moon. And so on Sunday, I thought, I hope they play one of the segments on Sunday, because on Sunday is the best of their show throughout the week. They played every single episode that I gave them, 5-minute segments. They played them back to back to back to back, and no other clips of anything else. So my whole thing I brought them was the best of their news show for the Sunday presentation. I was thrilled, man. I was just thrilled. So now you'd say, $11,000, that's a lot of money. Yeah, that was basically what I made that year. And then as I said on the winter one later on, they gave me $17,000 for the winter one. Again, that's what I made that year. So this does start off, though, I was in business with my cousin, Peter Dale, who supported me, who actually did support me with a bit of a minor salary when I was starting out trying to sell different ideas and pitch different filming ideas. This was just one that I happened to have pitched. I said, hey, man, I could do this thing where I go out in the wilderness and I survive for 7 days alone. No camera crew. I'll film myself. And here's my first documentary film, Snowshoes in Solitude. Shows you I know what I'm doing. And Jane Mingay said, yeah, we've been looking to do something just like this, and we didn't know who to call. So right place, right time, and we're off to the races. Shall we get started? If you don't want me interrupting the show, then just go watch the pilot on the channel, or maybe watch it after this director's commentary, and you'll be watching it with a bit more behind-the-scenes knowledge. But here we go. Here's a very young Les Stroud with hair for the first time ever. I haven't seen this in years, so this is going to be revealing to me too. Here we go.
Maybe you can see behind me, to the west of me, the storm's now coming in. So today, which was my day to secure some fire, I don't know what the heck's gonna happen, because it looks like a real mean storm coming in.
In the summer of 2000, I started something. They said it would change the way people looked at documentary filmmaking. That it would change the way people looked at the wilderness. For some, it would change the way they looked at life. But before all of that happened, it would change me.
And that's what, a little over dramatic there in the opening narration, but that's okay. Stranded. That's what we call it. So first it was 1 Week in the Wilderness with Les Stroud. Then I called it Stranded to release it sort of like as a film, because I put it when the network showed it all together on the Sunday, I thought, yeah, I got a film here. So then I took this one and I took the winter one, and I had 2 films, and full 1 hour films. And that became the calling card that I then used when I tried to pitch it as a series called Survivorman. But first, it was called Stranded. So here we go.
I knew there was only one true way to film a survival experience if I wanted to share it with a large audience. I had to do it alone. This meant no camera crew, no safety line. Taking myself far into a remote area and left alone to my own devices, without water, no food, no survival gear, just a backpack full of camera equipment with which to record my survival ordeal.
Now you'll notice at that point I'm using a Pelican case. I really didn't know how to do this. How was I going to make this all happen? So my camera equipment has to stay dry even though I'm sleeping out on the rocks. What if it comes into pouring rain, which it did. So this was all trial and error. That's Ernie Nickel. Ernie and Donna Nichols ran Huron Air, and very good friends of mine. And they were the ones that were going to take me in on this whole thing. I can't remember if we show the dart at the board scene. Let's watch.
I've been flying over the remote bush for years, and I've always gone in very prepared, ready for anything, really. To go in with nothing voluntarily didn't leave me with an easy feeling, and the pilots, they thought I had a death wish.
So I don't show it. Okay, so the original version, there's a shot of me throwing a dart at the board. I guess when we did this sort of updated edit, I just told Barry, we don't really need that anymore. But that's how I was to choose my location, was I threw a dart at the map of Wabakimi area. And wherever it landed is where we went.
Farther and farther, we fly into a remote spot on the map. A spot unknown to me. A place to survive, chosen by a simple throw of the dart. Only the pilot saw where it landed, and I was blindfolded, so I couldn't pick off any advantages from the aerial view either. Wherever the dart lands, so would I.
So yeah, this whole thing of blindfolding me, I mean, you're just trying to do things for the sake of a little bit of drama, but also for real. So blindfolding me before we landed, all that sort of stuff. And the reason for that is because, so it's like, if there happened to be a fishing cabin around the bend, around the corner, it would be so I wouldn't know that sort of thing. And the dart at the board, saw where it landed, and the instruction for the pilot was just put me on the lake closest to wherever the dart lands, sort of thing.
Regardless of the terrain. This is remote northern Ontario wilderness, a magical paradise called Wabakimi. I'll be nearly 100 kilometers, 60 miles, from the closest person and environment known as the boreal forest, possibly one of the toughest places on Earth to survive. There's very little art in the cultures that lived here for thousands of years. They were too busy trying to eat to bother with art. I was given no advantages. When the plane left, it left me alone, and I wouldn't see it again for 7 days. It's an ominous feeling. The overwhelming noise of the engine subsides, and you're left in the silence of the deep woods. When people get lost or stranded in the wilderness, panic is the common denominator amongst them. But panic kills. It takes away your sense of reason, and it feels as if a big monster is right behind you. You start to move faster. You start to run. And this is how panicking people get themselves killed.
And what do these people do while they're crashing through the bush? For one thing...
Stop that right there. So, notice you see the strap on my shoulder. Yeah, for those of you who are, maybe fans of the survival genre but didn't know my work all that well, yeah, I know it kind of starts to sound like bravado after a while, or braggadocio. But this right here, That's probably the first time anyone did a self-held camera and filmed themselves for a film, for a television series, or anything like that. I mean, people may have in the old taken a high-8 camera and turned it on their face like that once in a while, but very rarely. It was a thing you didn't do, but it was the only way I was going to be able to film this. So this scene right here, first time, and it was like a pole that I had made with a camera attachment on the end of it, and I think I was using the Sony VX1000 for this to try and get this to work. So no GoPros, no nothing like that, no cell phone cameras. It was a different world back then, and one where I had to become, use some ingenuity to figure out how I was going to capture this story.
They always travel downhill, which of course where nobody's going to see them. And what they don't do is they don't tend to make a shelter. They don't make any signals for anybody to see them. They don't build a fire, and if they do, they wait till the very end of the night, just as it's getting dark. In fact, they've even been known to hide from their searchers, and in really bizarre cases, they've even shot at the people who are coming after them. They don't trust their compass. They doubt even the position of the sun. And the last thing they tend to do as well is sleep in the middle of the day, just when everybody's trying to find them, because at night it's spooky. I gotta get out of here.
And you got to remember, all I'm really doing now, this is the very first time, right? So I'm just teaching survival is what I'm doing. And honestly, from day one of doing this here in Wabakimi to the very last show I ever produced for Discovery, which was Survivorman and Son in Mongolia, that never changed. I just was teaching outdoor skills. That was it. And so that's what's in my brain. I'm trying to be a good teacher here, and I'm trying to think of all the things that I can show and teach. The drama is just what unfolds in the reality of the situation.
This terrain is very familiar to me. I've traveled through it for years, paddled its rivers, hiked through its thick bush. But then I had food. Then I had gear. Unlike now, I wasn't forced to survive.
Most people tend to travel all day long on their first day, really limiting their chances for survival. I'm watching some thunder and lightning rumbling to the north of this lake, which is going to make me nervous for what I might have to put up with tonight. For now, I'm going to do what most people do, which is not right, and I didn't build a shelter. No shelter, I'm just going to sit here by my fire all night long. This is last match.
So the idea here was, which some people didn't seem to get for some reason, but the idea here is creating a simulation. It's saying, look, I know what to do. I know what I should do. I know what I should get a shelter going and this and that and the other. But if you'll forgive me, it's kind of like I'm too good at this. So I need to disadvantage myself. I need to put myself in the position of what most people would do so that I can play that out, show you the rights and the wrongs of that, and show you how to continue that success or get out of that trouble. And throughout all the years of doing Survivorman, there were lots of times where I had to kind of do the wrong thing so I could teach and show you on camera, in the film, how to do the right thing or how to get out of the situation that I'd put myself in the first place.
Here goes nothing.
At the end of a sunny day, one strike of my last match makes it easy. For now.
Well,
and thus began the routine for me of not sleeping and then getting up, turning on the camera, getting back down to the position I was in while I was sleeping so I could kind of greet you in the mornings and show you, well, this is what it was like, I always hated those. I hated those moments. Every time I'm like, oh God, I haven't slept all night. I got to go turn the camera on. Lots of times I'd even leave the camera ready to go, just pointing at me, and I'd go up and turn it on, press record, climb back into my shelter. and then greet you, sort of thing. So yeah, we're actually looking at what was the beginnings of a repeated formula, if you will, that was to last me 20 years of filming.
This is pretty much how I spent the night. Mosquitoes came in pretty good at one point, and for I don't know how many hours, pretty much just tormented me. All I could do was hide under my jacket and hope for the cool weather, which finally came. Not the cool weather, but the temperatures dropped somewhere in the middle of the night. And the mosquitoes kind of left. Of course, then I spent the next part of the night shivering every once in a while. Whenever the fire would die down, I'd wake up shivering. So, with the sun just about to rise, all I feel like doing right now is sleeping some more, which is pretty classic because that's when the rescuers are going to be coming for me, is now, and yet I'll be off in the sun feeling comfortable with the darkness gone and sleeping. Stay true to form. I'll let the fire die. That was my last match last night, so from this point on I'll be matchless and fireless.
I've got to keep myself in the role of a true lost victim and make the same mistakes so I can find my own answers to survival.
It's day 2, and likely you're going through a whole new set of emotions. Perhaps guilt, stupidity, and maybe even embarrassment over the predicament you're in. But it's time to sit down and take stock of not only what's around you, but what you have on your person.
So this was it. It's the first time I ever did this. This happened almost every show. What's less carrying? You know, and I would go through my stuff, but in the beginning, it was really just as a survival instructor saying, no, this is what you should do in any situation like this. Take stock. What have you got going on? Later on, I developed what I called the Survivorman zones of assessment. What have you got close at hand? Zone 1. Zone 2 is what's around you. Zone 2. And Zone 3 is what's further afield. There's a cabin a mile away. There's a backpack with a tent over there, and I've got some food in my pocket. So zone 3, 2, 1. Right? So it all started here with whatever it is I'm about to show, which on several occasions throughout the making of the series would be different survival kits, some silly stuff, just like what would I have? What would make sense here?
Looking at my predicament here, I've got my wallet. Well, first of all, I've got a good container here that I can use for gathering berries, perhaps even scooping water and drinking it. Yeah, heck, even the zipper can be broken off and filed into something sharp against a rock. I've also got this little paper clip that's holding the money together. Well, instant fish hook, instant sharp implement. My set of keys, pretty much ditto for that. I can take the keys, file them down. I can't stress enough that if you're going to be out in the bush, take a Swiss Army knife with you, some sort of knife. Of course, I've got a couple of blades, can opener, that sort of thing. This saw blade's going to come into great use when I'm working on the shelter later on. Lastly, of course, the favorite of all of this is the food I've got. I'm planning on having, or I'm hoping on having, people come to look for me within the next 7 days. So knowing that, I'm going to divide this food up and ration it so I've got one piece for each day. It's going to be a small energy boost, but probably more than anything a real psychological boost. So that is pretty much what I've got to work with.
And that's very true. It's more when you're only dealing with a power bar per day, and that would be more than what I have there. I've got less than that. It's really psychological. It is a psychological boost, though. You know, that morsel of chocolate peanut butter power bar kind of thing is you really look forward to it, and there's a blood sugar rush. I found that I really got work done after a bite of a power bar. It's like I would get, for 90 minutes, I'd have lots of energy to get work done. I also noticed here too, this was, having been already filming as a cameraman for Cottage Life Television and other things, my Snowshoes in Solitude film, all of that, I knew right from the beginning that one of the key things, and this is for every filmmaker out there, the audio on your camera sucks. So you've got to go with that. You got to go with the lavalier mic. Always. You must have really good sound. Crappy sound can hurt a good film. And really good sound can actually help a bad film. So you've always want to have really good sound.
This looks like it could be a good spot for a shelter for me. I've got this big natural wall on the side of me from where a tree has fallen over and lifted up the root system. I'm close to the water, I'm close to firewood, I'm close to a few blueberries and other berries as well. And that's very important. If you've got to go a long ways to get your firewood or your food or your water, then it's not a good location for your shelter. I've got a nice smooth kind of rock situation here that's fairly level for making my bed on. I've even got a cubby hole here where I might be able to put a little fire inside. The only downside is it looks like it's kind of a runoff area for when it rains, but if I lift myself high enough off the ground to protect from that, I should be okay. I think this is going to be home. Too often people making a survival shelter, they get the roof up quick because that's their primary concern. They go to crawl inside and all they've got to lay on is the cold, damp ground. That can get you really quickly. So the best thing to do is to get your bedding down first. You're going to want to use a lot of boughs because basically 3 feet of boughs, when you get in, gets compressed down to about 6 inches of bedding by the time morning comes along.
You know, am I proud of this information getting out there? And you know, again, a little backdrop. You got to remember that those of us who are learning survival, practicing survival, teaching survival, and bushcraft skills, traditional primitive skills. You've got your Boulder Outdoor School of Survival down in the States, and Rabbit Stick Rendezvous, and John and Jerry McPherson, and Survival in the Bush up in Canada, and Morris Kochansky in the West Coast. On and on it goes. David Westcott, and of course David Halliday, and Doug Geckert, all these amazing, amazing teachers. We were all geeks. We were nerds, man. We were just survival geeky nerds going out on the weekend building shelters. We were totally nerds. And then, you know, nobody put it on television like this. So now Ray Mears had his bushcraft show, but it wasn't full-on survival. And Bush Tucker Man, which I loved, you know, I think his name's Les also. Great show, but again, you know, just showing the little skills here and there. This was an opportunity for me to say, no, let me really walk you through how you should be out here. So am I proud when people say, you know, they know how to do shelters and stuff like that? Am I proud that I could say, look, this is how you really start with a shelter. Work on the bed first? Yes, I am. Very much so. I'm glad that there's a whole generation of men and women out there who are now in their 40s that learned this stuff when they were, you know, in their teens, because that's how long ago it's been. And even watching this now, it's like, yeah, that's some pretty good information going on there, Stroud. Good job.
To help kill the hunger pangs that are already affecting me, I'm guzzling a good 8 ounces of water every half hour religiously. It tricks my stomach into feeling full.
This is where the saw comes in really, really handy. I tell you, it makes a big difference. If I didn't have this saw, I'd be spending a lot of calories trying to break this branch off, or other branches, or only be able to use smaller trees. Man, what a difference it makes to have a knife.
Yeah, a knife and a saw. That tip and a word to the wise are going to do survival. You know, a saw is very, very valuable. So I will always say, you know, winter in Canada, an axe. Jungle, machete. Summertime, a great knife, but I should also always say, and a saw. A hand saw is, you know, if you're a canoe camper, backpacker, I mean, there's so many things you can utilize as firewood if you have a saw, and if you don't have a saw, you actually can't. You can't bend it, you can't break it, you can't pull it out from where it is, but a basic saw would make it so. So, big supporter of that.
As far as I can tell right now, I've got a thunderstorm coming in on me fairly soon. I've got to find a way of making that shelter dry, and I don't have a tarp. So anything can work, and you can find lots of different barks, or big pile of leaves also works really well too to shed the rain. But there's nothing that works as well as birch bark, and this guy is a beauty. This is when you're really happy you've got a knife, I'll tell you. You can make a split right down the center. Just follow it, and that's going to peel off as one big shingle. And this beauty goes up about another 5 feet. So this is going to help a lot for the shelter. There's a bunch more like this kind of lying around on the ground as well. This one broke off at the top, but there's more lying on the ground. And this is going to keep me dry, I hope. Just peel it around. Off it comes. Yeah, there's a lot of holes in it and stuff, but there's a lot of places where there's no holes. So, and slip your hand in behind. Good place to find grubs and other such things that you might want to throw in the stew pot later on too. Although it's also a good place sometimes to find things like hornet's nest, and I hate when that happens. Oh yeah.
This is why I always taught that, you know, one of the more valuable items of your survival kit is a tarp, because waterproofing your roof is the most difficult thing to do for a shelter. If you've got a tarp, you're done. You just deal with insulation instead of trying to waterproof. You know, when the people who make Alone, you know, and I've been approached to consult and do different things and that for people who are going on and that. And when I discover what it is they're allowed to have, well, one of the things is a huge tarp. And I was like, well, you got a big tarp. You're laughing. With a tarp, you know, whatever, a 10 by 10 or 10 by 20 tarp, it's going to be easy to make a shelter. So it's a game changer to have a tarp in a survival situation. You should have it. And I don't mean a flimsy little thing. I mean, obviously you don't want something too big and heavy, like the big blue ones and big orange ones. You know, no, they're too heavy. But really, the better ones are certainly the brighter color is best because it's survival, you want to be spotted, but the high-tech ones. The super high-tech ones that REI would make, those guide tarps, those are phenomenal tarps for a survival situation.
Yeah. Haha. Look at that. I can flatten these out just by getting some heavier logs and laying them down on it to try to get a better pitch, better angle to this roof. You don't want it too flat. The water just percolates through. You want it to drain down. Once you've got the roof secured for rain, or at least you think you do, after that I usually put on a couple of heavy rotten logs to deflect more rain and to weigh down the shelter. Keep these guys flat. And then basically anything you can throw on there, throw on. Moss, leaves, branches, whatever you've got, just start throwing stuff on. And I've been sweating profusely all day doing this. That's the downside of when you make a shelter. You start burning up a lot of valuable calories. And you've got to be careful, but by the same token, to be caught out in the elements is worse.
Being caught out in the elements can kill. It doesn't take long for hypothermia to kick in, a state where your body is trying too hard just to stay warm. But right now, it's not the cold that's my enemy.
Spent the entire night last night laid out on this flat rock, just laying there with my hat over top of me, being bombarded by a forest's worth of mosquitoes. Storm never came in, it didn't cool things down, in fact it just got hotter. So I sweated inside my rain jacket all night long.
Oh man, and sleep here listening to the sound of the mosquitoes. Usually tuck my hands in my pocket just to get them away from the bugs. Oh, and it's a brutal experience. You can hardly breathe inside this thing and you just sweat constantly.
In all my years of wilderness tripping,
Yeah, that was a night I don't want to remember because that was just awful. It was the end of the season. There shouldn't have been any mosquitoes, but a heat wave came in, a hot, humid heat wave. And it was like they just all woke up. Like, oh, no, we were waiting for next year, but hey, it's perfect right now, so we're coming back out again. So, because I think this was September, there shouldn't have been any bugs, but there certainly was. And as I said in the clip there, a forest's worth of mosquitoes. Think about it. I'm like the only thing there. I mean, I'm sure there was a couple of moose and bear that were getting hit up, but otherwise I'm there exposed, and boy, did they come in. And I've had a lot of bad nights with mosquitoes, but I got to say that was probably the worst ever in my existence of time in nature. Yeah, that would have been the worst night ever, and because I had nowhere to run, nowhere to hide.
All my years of wilderness tripping, that is the worst experience of mosquitoes I've ever had. I don't think.
See, I wasn't lying. This guy's telling the truth.
I got maybe a good solid 15 minutes in total of sleep all night long. And now, I think maybe you can see behind me, to the west of me, the storm's now coming in. So today, which was my day to secure some fire, I don't know what the heck's gonna happen, because it looks like a real mean storm coming in.
In survival, no matter where on the planet you are, the greatest danger is the weather. You're either hiding from it or preparing for it. Take it for granted, and it can cut you down in shorter time than it took for you to get into trouble in the first place.
I don't know if you can see that, but it's really coming down. That's huge chunks of hail. Thunder's cracking pretty good, lightning. Well, I'm just gonna wait this out.
I remember this is a lot like it was in the Arctic, that you get to see a few clips in this film, in this 45-minute film, but it was hours and hours of waiting out rain. I've lost track of how many times I've had to do that in a survival situation, but you can't do anything. You just lay there, and if you're lucky, you fall asleep and you get a bunch of sleep in, and that would be if you're lucky. But if you're getting dripped on or it's cold, then even that's not happening.
Of course, every cloud has its silver lining.
Oh man, even these big chunks of hail, and these guys have already been melting for about 15 minutes. They were probably, well, the ones I saw bouncing were 3-4 times this size. Even these guys taste good right now. Oh, just to feel something cold in your mouth after 2.5 days of intense heat. Oh, it's great.
It was, my understanding is that it was record-breaking heat for that area, and I was just not expecting that. I was expecting nice, cool temperatures of September in far northern Ontario, but it just got so humid and so hot. So yeah, eating hail was a godsend.
Let's go see if we can find some berries. Here's the two less commonly known ones right together. Bunchberry, and this little guy here is creeping snowberry.
Right here is a good chance to tell you about my series Wild Harvest. If you have not seen Wild Harvest, you really should check it out on this YouTube channel and the playlist there. It's 37 episodes, local foraging. Show them the clip, Luke.
Hey Les!
Gotta watch some whales!
Oh my gosh! This perhaps is the most incredible kitchen scenario I've ever had.
Can you create a dish where the domestic ingredients don't overshadow the wild ingredients?
This dish is a showcase of how great these foraged ingredients come together.
It's the best when it's its own flavor. When you're making something with a wild edible, you're nailing it and not losing the wild flavor. See, looks pretty cool, doesn't it? So let's come back to this foraging.
Not huge, but a nice little taste power punch. Almost minty-like. This is my one and only raspberry plant that I can find so far. Again, just like the blueberries, you can take the raspberry leaves and boil them up for tea for an extra source of nutrients. The problem of being lost and not having any food is that many of the berries look very tasty to you. Yet this one here, nice and blue and juicy, is poisonous. It's Clintonia borealis. Blueberries. I'm lucky. There's not a lot of berries in this area, but there are about 5 different kinds of berries fairly close to me. I'll eat them up pretty quick because, as I said, there's not too many. But I'm not going to eat them now. I'm going to leave them till about day 5 or so. Because right now I'm still living off my fat reserves and a little bit of energy from before. So I'm going to need those berries in a couple of days, a lot more than I need them now. So I'm just going to have just 2 more. Okay, all right, 3 or 4 more.
So there's a little full disclosure. He was told not to. Ernie popped in on this day. He was so worried about me that he flew in to see if I was alive, if I was doing okay. He didn't bring me any food. He didn't bring me anything. He just came in he goes, I just want to make sure you're, I said, I'm fine, Ernie. I'm doing my thing. I'm filming. Go away and come back at the end of the week and I'll be okay. But yeah, Ernie, bless his soul. I mean, he was just looking out for me. He wanted to make sure that I was all right. So and that's what happens, when you do stuff like this, is people, they just want to make sure you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay doing this stuff? Well, I was, because I've been a survival instructor for many years. A lot of people are not, and they need to be checked upon. But yeah, I was thankful that he came by, because then I just knew that I wasn't forgotten about out there in the real world sort of thing. But yeah, the pilot, Ernie, came by. I'm pretty sure it was this day, day 3, just to make sure that I was still alive.
This is why you get your shelter going. In the wintertime, there's the odd occasion where a fire takes precedence. In the summertime, in this area anyway, first thing you want to have up is that shelter. Should have been up the first night, and I would have been better prepared for tonight. For today, I guess.
Just a comment that, you see that it's a Jack Wolfskin rain jacket. So this is back in the era where, again, they paid me $11,000 to make this film. That was what I made this year. Other than that, I was playing in the bars, singing Cat Stevens, and making a couple of $100. So, so you did a lot of trying to get endorsements. It's funny how in a career, Ringo Starr said that. He goes, when you need it, you can't get anything, and then when you don't need it, then people are giving them to you all the time, and that's the way it is. In the beginning, I would get these endorsements from Jack Wolfskin, gave me a whole bunch of clothing and stuff like that. And then after that, I think there was a Columbia endorsement. And then after a while, you don't care anymore. It's like, oh, well, I got what I need. I don't need any more, and then the whole thing changes in your career sort of thing. But back then, I was very happy that this company called Jack Wolfskin, which was out of Germany, which the name of the company was because they thought it sounded American. That's why it's called Jack Wolfskin. Anyway, I was happy to wear the rain jacket.
It's up now, and I'm going to hunker in there. The bugs were insane in it last night, which is why I slept out on the rock. It's starting to rain just now, and I can't chance getting myself wet at all. You let yourself get wet even a bit, hypothermia can sink in, even in the summertime, even in the fall. People link hypothermia usually only to the winter. Most cases happen in the fall and in the spring. And this is August in far, far northern Ontario, in the boreal forest, Canadian Shield. I could get hypothermic now if I don't stay dry, which the rain's here now, so that's what I'm gonna go do.
I'm fairly dry. Gotta tuck my legs in to keep them dry. But it's really coming down out there. At least I know I'm fairly low, not out on a point or attached to a big tall tree. Pretty important since lightning's been hitting pretty hard. It's a good thing that I raised this shelter up on top of some rotted logs and then put the spruce boughs down, because already I've got a river flowing underneath me.
As strong as my roof is, I've counted more than 50 drips inside.
You have no...
Which is why it would have been amazing if I'd had a tarp of some sort. Even a garbage bag that I could cut open would have made a huge difference. So just keep that in mind, that, what are great survival items to have in your kit? Well, for my money, absolutely a tarp for your shelter roof is extremely valuable.
Choice in a situation like this, but the hold tight. I'm gonna start looking for some things to get my fire going. I've got a ways to walk around and see if I can get the right ingredients for the firebow. When you start walking through the bush, if you're gonna leave your campsite, you wanna make sure you really notice everything. Look around all the time. Walk slowly and deliberately. Step over top of things. Don't jump on things. Good way to twist an ankle. And whenever possible, blaze your trail, like perhaps either taking a branch and purposely breaking it in a particular direction, or if you've got a knife or an axe, mark a blaze on the tree on both sides. People mark it usually on the side they're going. They forget to mark it on the side for when they're coming back so they can see where they've got to get back to. Both sides of the tree. Yeah, hopefully I won't get lost. Now, I need some cedar and some poplar. Be careful not to injure yourself when you're doing this. So the first thing I want to find is a spindle, maybe 6 to 8 inches long, and as straight as I can find it. Just get that off.
In many ways, this next scene marked the significant beginning of what would then eventually become Survivorman. This whole thing of me trying to get a fire going for about 11 hours, which was all the daylight I had. I mean, I start, literally starting, the first scene would have been like just as the sun's rising kind of thing. Because it's dramatic, and it showed how tough it can be to get a fire going without matches. And it laid the groundwork for what I was, then to do for the next many, many years of filming this series.
Okay, so I've got my spindle, and I'll have to clean it up and carve it a little bit straighter than that. The next piece of your fire bow is actually the bow part. And pretty much any kind of branch will do, as long as it's, oh boy, as long as it's strong enough and curved. Now right here by my shelter, all these upturned roots, a lot of them of course are bent. This one's probably a little too weak, but I can try it later if this one doesn't work. But I like the shape of this guy up here, so at last I've put together the essential elements for a fire bow. I've got my spindle all ready to go and just hopefully shaped nicely and smooth enough. I've got the fire bow now, which the root's probably going to work out. I carved a couple of notches in around the end so that I can tie this leather lace on, which came of course from my boot. The baseboard in this case is just this cedar branch, and I've got the hole. You can see I already actually started it a bit just to find out exactly where the spindle is going to rest. And lastly is the bearing block to hold it down. This is trial number 1. Wish me luck. You know what? I'm getting smoke, but my notch is not close enough to the hole. The dust is just scattering around.
Patience is the key.
Oh man, not getting it yet.
By the way, the whole barefoot thing there, that's not because I'm trying to be Cody Linden or London or whatever his name is. I legitimately, when I do the fire bow, I like my left foot to be a barefoot, even if it's like snow and stuff, because then I can, what it is I can really feel the baseboard and how I'm manipulating it and how I'm spinning the spindle and all that sort of stuff. And I just have a better feel for it if my left foot is bare. So I know it looks a little dorky, but it's legit. I think I can do a better fire bow if I keep my left foot bare.
Oh, God. That's hot. That's hot enough to ignite.
It's been 2.5 hours, and still no fire.
Oh, jeez. Oh, so close. All right, my bootlace is broken. Can you hear that plane overhead? I wish you'd drop me down some matches. Gotta keep trying. Ah! This isn't gonna work. I'm gonna have to take another shot at this. This is getting silly. Part of it is this socket. It's too small. Oh my God. All right, well, now I'm in trouble.
So the lesson there is the leather bootlaces are not good for the fire bow. I truly thought they would be great. They're not. There's nothing like parachute cord. Parachute cord is the best firebow string to use when you're doing a firebow, if you're not using natural materials such as spruce roots or that sort of thing. And I remember thinking, oh, I'll be fine. I've got leather bootlaces. I'll use them to make a firebow when I go do this thing, right? And but that was not something I'd tested before. And I quickly discovered your leather bootlaces, not good for firebows. So you want to have the kind of material that is more like a parachute cord.
I've doubled the bootlace to hopefully make it stronger. Boy, this is one of the toughest I've ever had to do. And you know, I've done hundreds of these fires. But this setup is not optimum. It's not working for me for some reason.
5 hours, but I can't give up.
Oh, God. So close. Come on, spin. If I don't get it this time, I gotta take a break. String broke. Down to one string.
It's been 6.5 hours, and the temperature's soaring to a heat wave of 42 degrees Celsius, 101 Fahrenheit. I'm going back to the drawing board. I'll use new wood and a string that I'm making by cutting a strip off the bottom of my shirt.
It took a long time to get this split and this into shape. Basically, I was dealing with a branch that was this big. Come on now. Take this time.
Now, you got to bear in mind here, I mean, a lot of times, you guys, when you're learning your firebow, it's with stuff that is beautifully dried, and maybe the instructor comes in with a bunch of spindles and so on, and baseboards, and you know, we use fence railings a lot of times when we're teaching and training and that sort of stuff. It's a lot different if you just go out and have to find it in the woods. In fact, I give that to you as a challenge. You think you're good at the firebow? Great. Can you do a firebow where you walk into the woods and gather everything for the first time right there and then? And I mean the real woods, not a farmyard, but just the bush. That's the challenge, because that's getting a fire going from nothing, quote unquote, just from the wilderness. And that is really, really tough. Poplar, cedar, work fairly well for me. Other guys like to use birch in that, but it's getting, wood that is dried enough that will work, because so much of it has moisture to it. That as instructors or as survival enthusiasts, we keep our fire bow material that we've had for years, and it's bone dry and it works like matches. It's a lot different out in the wilds. And you really want a challenge? Now go do it while it's raining.
I'm into my 9th hour, but I can't bear the thought of surviving out here without fire. It's the key to life.
Oh my God. I'm so close. So close.
The wisps of smoke betray the existence of everything I need for a fire. Fuel and heat by friction.
All right, before we go there, just a little interruption to tell you again about the fact that I'm working on a new Bigfoot film. So before we see if I get this fire going, check this out.
This was scary, exhilarating, and makes you doubt everything you ever learned that's real and unreal.
Back in 2014, I began work on a 10-part documentary series on the subject of Bigfoot. It took me places I did not expect to go, and it gave me a perspective I did not expect to have. Well, it's been 10 years, and a lot of questions still remain. Join me and help me to answer the litany of questions hanging over the phenomenon known as Bigfoot.
Walking up, I could see that there was something there. As I got closer, it stood up.
I know there's something there. I'm a lot more leery when I go out. I mean, really leery.
And I seen this humongous arm reach right in.
One of the dogs got killed, twisted, and torn in two.
What the heck have I heard when I've been out in the wilderness on so many different occasions? When I want answers, I go after them.
My new documentary film, The Question of Bigfoot, will attempt to answer all of the skeptics' burning questions. Why don't we see one on a trail cam? Where are the bones? Have they ever been hit by a car? Why haven't we captured one? Is there enough room out there in the wilderness for them to exist? Are they real or are they not? I can't do this without you. So take a look at all of the rewards within this Kickstarter campaign and help me to produce The Question of Bigfoot.
So that is The Question of Bigfoot, the new film that I'm working on. You can become part of the campaign for $1. You can be on the newsletter and become part of the whole campaign, know what everything that's going on, the rewards that are being given out, all that sort of stuff. So join me in that. journey, will you? All right, let's go back and find out if this guy gets his fire going.
Come on.
It's been well over 10 hours of struggle. And even without me noticing, a small coal has formed.
Now, I've taken a little bit of flack for that, but that's a reality. Sometimes I've done firebows before and thought I didn't get it. Only to stand up, take a break. I look down, it's like, there's a little bit of smoke coming from that thing. And I go down and I lift, I'm really careful, and it had formed into an ember. But while I was down there, I didn't notice it. Now, a lot of times you'll do that and you get tons of smoke and you're getting your ember. Like, here we go, man, I got a good one. But sometimes you didn't get a good one, but you got enough that it's going to take. And I have come back probably 2 or 3 times in my life where I thought I didn't get a firebow going, and I turned and walked away, got a drink, something, I come back, and it's smoldering. So it does happen.
But it won't be until I take my boot off the wood and allow a bit of air underneath will the combination work.
That's the best one so far. Hang on. That one's really close. But my spindle's slipping all the time.
Fuel, heat, and oxygen.
So this is interesting because this is Barry Farrell's edit of all of this, which is much different than the one I originally did, and when it was all in segments. And in that one, I explained that I actually cut a strip off the bottom of my shirt, and I twisted the shirt, those 2 strips together that I'd cut off, and made this new string part for the firebow. Maybe it's coming up, I'm not sure. But anyway, that happened. But I'm really happy to see Barry's edit of this, my 2 original pilots, because with his skill, and artistic talent for editing, it's less amateur, how about that, than what I originally did way back in the day.
Together we'll make the magic. We'll make fire.
Uh-oh. Well, now I gotta work on this again. Oh man, you aren't gonna believe this.
And that's it right there. You saw that little bit of smoke that was coming out. I've been accused of people saying, oh, you lit it on fire, you cheated with matches or light. I did not have a lighter and I did not have matches. It was a matter of I stepped away from it and there was just enough oxygen slipped in underneath it, maybe when I kicked it with my boot a little bit or something like that, and I had gotten it. So there you go. And here we are now, me taking it to the next place.
It's very important here that I don't jump up. I could kick everything flying. It's very tender. Okay. All right. I gotta be really gentle. Ha ha ha! Yes, yes, yes! Ha 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 ha! Oh my God, that was tough. I've never had so much trouble getting a fire going. Oh yeah. Woo! I have created fire!
My ripoff of Tom Hanks in Castaway. This was a very long day to make that happen. And only if you've ever been in that situation do you know how amazing this feeling is right now.
Oh yeah. I'd like to thank the Academy. I'd like to thank cedar. I'd like to thank poplar, birch bark, and Spanish moss. Yes. What a difference this is going to make. A couple of things. Psychologically, heat, and now, if I'm able to catch any, if I have to eat leeches or snails or anything, at least I can cook them up, kill any parasites that might exist with them. But now I'm going to try my hardest to catch some fish, and or maybe a mouse or something like that. Oh man, that was tough.
And that was the beginning of also what would become, a standby was me blowing harmonica in so many of those Survivorman episodes. And, I was just doing that for fun. No other big special reason. And a part of it was also me honestly saying, I'm not just a one-trick pony here. I can do more than start fires and build shelters. I'm a musician. And, lo and behold, many years later, that thought process paid off because I got a chance. I've been able to play with some legends, which has been great. But one of them was Johnny Lang, the blues guitar player. And Johnny said to me, he goes, I remember when you blow harp on a Survivorman episode, I thought, oh, that guy can actually play. And I found myself on stage playing with Johnny Lang, blowing some killer blues, So that's why I did that. I did that for me, for fun, and why not?
I was expecting to spend last night laying out on the rock and being tormented by mosquitoes as I have every other night. So I decided to come up and sit by the fire and sit in the smoke, and hopefully they wouldn't hassle me too much there. But something surprising happened. The temperature seemed to drop just a bit, and the stars came out, and the mosquitoes cooled off a little bit and left me alone. So I just laid here by the fire all night long, and I discovered something, a sense of familiarity. Now, it's deeply psychologically comforting to have a sense of familiarity out here. I'm certainly not familiar with laying on the rocks and letting mosquitoes torment me all night long. Heck, at one point I even looked up and there was northern lights on one side of the sky and a full moon on the other side of the sky. It made a big difference for me to get through a night like that.
Yeah, that sense of familiarity, that's a big thing. I always reference there's a silly old movie called Oh God with John Denver and George, it's a comedian. You guys remember the name. Somebody put it down below in the posting there. And he meets God, and God said, here, shave. And God gets him to shave, and he goes, it's a sense of familiarity.
Sometimes when you don't feel normal, doing a normal thing makes you feel normal. Yeah, start shaving.
It'll help you to get a handle on the moment kind of thing. Just shaving, doing something you're familiar with. And in survival, that's a real thing. If you can have a hot drink, it feels familiar. It feels good. And otherwise, it's nervy to be out in the middle of nowhere, out in the wilderness and surviving and starving and hungry and there's predators about. But if you can give yourself some kind of something familiar to you, it just goes a long way towards building confidence.
Having some form of cordage out here is pretty important. In fact, whenever I go tripping, I carry tons of excess rope. And, you can make cordage from bark, from plants like milkweed and evening primrose or from basswood trees, but there's none of that out here. And I've found that out here that spruce roots work really well, and it's very, very strong. I could never break that. I've taken the spruce roots and I've tied around from pole to pole, back up to pole, tied up at the top and for strength, and then I've done a lacing with some more spruce roots across the bottom to create like a mesh on the bottom and also on the sides so that stuff doesn't blow out of the sides. I'll do the same across the front once I'm done. But the next stage basically is to get all my birch bark and all of my tinder and stuff like that, and to shove it in there and get it all in there with lots dangling down at the bottom so that it's ready to go.
God, I just realized there that something that I would do, because I mentioned you always want to have good audio and use a lavalier mic, on occasion, because before the days of manscaping, pretty hairy chest. I would use the hair on my chest to, this guy here, to take the microphone clip, and I would clip it to the hair on my chest. You do what you got to do.
I still think it's a good idea for me to have that fire going all the time. But this is getting tougher and tougher as my energy goes down.
Yeah, the reality there is the last thing I wanted to do was have to get that fire going again. So now it's a game of keeping the fire going 24/7. And that's a skill in itself. It's tricky to do that. Try to do that without firewood laying around. Keep a fire going 24/7. And you find a lot of different tricks and things that work to do that, which I think I show some.
People have had to do some pretty outrageous things to survive an ordeal. Consider the person who, if they had a canoe, might paddle across to that island over there and set it on fire so someone would spot it. Or someone who chops down or burns down a hydro pole so workers would be forced to come out to find out what the trouble is. Illegal? Oh yeah, definitely. But survival is about doing whatever it is you need to do to live. It's not pretty, it's not comfortable, it's not fun, it's ugly, and it's never a game. The old saying is, better to be tried by 12 than carried by 6.
So I'll nod to Dave Arama in Ontario, Canada for that saying. He probably got it from Gino Safari. But either way, yeah, that's the phrase I remember Dave Arama teaching us in survival school in Toronto.
My energy level is it's getting low. The hunger pangs are coming 3 or 4 times a day. It's like, oh, I need some food. And that's kind of a drag. Actually, you know, toting this camera around everywhere I go and setting it up is really killing my energy level. It's taken a lot out of me, and that plays on my mind while I'm out here, trying to survive and film at the same time.
Yeah, let's hold it right there. Luke, why don't you show them what all the crap that I sell? I got to go downstairs and get a drink. Be right back. Hey everyone, allow me to interrupt myself. I don't really like hawking merchandise and swag, but you guys do ask all the time where you can get certain items. For example, check this out, Hennessy hammock. I put a lot of time and effort into designing this hammock with Hennessy. It's their top hammock. It's an amazing, beautiful, comfortable hammock to enjoy for all of your adventures out there, so just check it out. It's got a full-size tarp, which is a big thing for me. It's got insulation, and I love it. So I've got the Hennessy hammocks. Of course, for years I've been in a phenomenal relationship with Hella of Norway, Hella Knives. And this is our signature knife, of course, the Tamagami. These knives are handmade. In fact, I've been there to this very ancient factory where I don't know how many, it's well over 100 years that they've been operating, and every single handle is handmade. All of the grinding, everything is done by hand. And these knives are absolutely beautiful. I also now have a brand new relationship, and you will see these items, new foraging tools that I'm designing with LT Wright Knives out of Ohio. And also, Chef Paul Rogalski of Wild Harvest has the signature Chef Paul Rogalski kitchen knife collection. Those are a big thrill to me, to have these beautiful items that we spent years designing, and I still have them available for you. However, if you want to go more the route of just enjoying the Survivorman legacy, if you will, then of course, go to my website, lestroud.ca, go to the shop page. Right there, you've got everything. All the swag, all the merch, such as my manual on survival. This is if you want to get into survival. This book is meant to be a way to walk you through step by step, because I deal a lot more with concepts than I do with specifics, because that's really important. Once you understand the concepts of fire by friction, for example, you can do it depending on where you are, because I can't give you the advice on how to do it here in Canada and hope that it's also going to work down in the jungle. Things are different. So I've always been very proud of this book, Survive. So that is my survival manual. Also, if you weren't aware, I've got the book Will to Live. I wrote this book it's kind of for a lot of fun. I took my 10 favorite survival stories, such as Chris McCandless Into the Wild or the Robertson family and the life raft, and I basically dissect them with this book. I tear apart the story, I go through everything, and I even give them a little bit of a grade on how I thought they did. So I really enjoyed writing this book. It's a real easy read, it's a fast read, but I think there's a lot of insight there for you into all of these different examples of people who have either survived or perished. Speaking of books, so honored, so thrilled, so proud that Wild Outside, my first children's book, has won the Yellow Cedar Award, Best Nonfiction Children's Book in Canada for ages 7 to 14. I tell stories from Survivorman, lessons learned during those expeditions and adventures, and there are even activities they can do in the out of doors. So there you go. my new book, my children's book, Wild Outside, Around the World with Survivorman, has just won the Yellow Cedar Award, and I'm up for another award yet. And in keeping with stuff that's going on right now, we are also up for an award for our Season 1 recipe book from the series Wild Harvest. We, with every single season, create a recipe book based on the recipes that we show you in the actual shows themselves. So that's Wild Harvest. And of course, if you want the DVD, you can get that on this website as well, lesstroud.ca. And let's not forget too, that I'm a musician. The CDs themselves are available on the website. The next release will be the re-release of the Mother Earth album on vinyl. But go on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you listen to music, or on my website, you can go to the shop page, you can pick up all of my CDs. This is the last one. This is my 20th anniversary selection. Check it out. Every film I've ever made, 76 films in all of the Survivorman, Bigfoot, Beyond Survival, music documentaries, one-off films such as the award-winning Lalache about the school shooting up in Canada and a healing canoe trip. This is my 20th anniversary, 76 films. And people that have picked this up have raved about it. And I'm really proud that I can say I've got 20 years of anything, to be honest with you. That's available for you as well on that Les Stroud shop page. Okay, that's me hawking my stuff. Back to the video.
Now, if I were a fish, I'd be going after this. You've got to be out there somewhere. Here, fishy, fishy, fishy. One nice, beautiful, tasty keychain. I'm really feeling the energy factor right now. Kind of back and forth. I'm walking around. I walk from one end of the camp to the other and forget to pick up what I went to pick up in the first place. It's really strange, actually. So I'm trying to occupy my mind and get busy with some stuff, making a figure 4 deadfall here. I catch us some food. Yep. Welcome to the Les Stroud Big Game Hunting and Fishing Show. Today we're going to catch the most dangerous of all creatures in the Canadian woods, the woodland mouse. Yes, indeed. On the end right here, hopefully the mouse comes along, gives it a little nibble, and I get dead mouse. Survival is coping. You know, I felt something really interesting today that I wasn't expecting, and yet a lot of lost victims do say they feel it. Boredom. I was just getting really bored today. And it happens, and you've got to get your mind occupied. I mean, the fire was done, the shelter was okay, the signal tower was done, and the boredom crept in. And you know what that can do to people. It can be really dangerous. So you need to start occupying your mind. So now I'm starting to whittle away and carve at little deadfalls and snares to set up and see if I can procure maybe a little bit of meat, get a bit of protein into my diet. Anyway, I can hear the mosquito hum starting again, so maybe I'm lucky and I can be like last night, not have to wrap myself up in this raincoat again.
Now, if you're wondering why not go in the shelter, they'd be even worse inside the shelter, the mosquitoes would be. And the shelter is very claustrophobic anyway, most of them usually are. And if they're effective and they work, they tend to be claustrophobic, they tend to be really tight. So sleeping out under the stars with a big fire going beside me, that's how I camp. So much more comfortable. It's just that, you know, no matter what, the mosquitoes are going to find you. Yeah, the reality, the beginnings of the fact that I still had contact lenses. And oh yeah, there's a shot of me setting up the camera. So I didn't do a lot of that in this very, very first one. It was later that I realized with Survivorman, with that series, and even then, really more the second episode, that showing all of the cameras I was using to film myself became important, because once you see them, you go, oh, he really is alone. Okay.
Damn it, I did press record.
If you don't see them, there's always this sort of disbelief in there. It's like, I don't know. I mean, who's filming him? That's the question they ask. I'm like, oh, you can see he just sets them up on little tripods. So that became very important in the Survivorman series, to show that. I had to argue with my first editor about it, actually, because he just disagreed, because he was an old school way of thinking. And I thought, no, this is new, man. We're going to be showing people something they've never seen before, someone filming themselves. And that's one of the ways to do it non-verbally. You see that camera set up in the corner. It's like, okay. And then you cut to the shot that camera's getting. And people just, you guys, when you're watching, you make the connection. And that was really important.
Morning of day 6, and a little tense this morning. I had to come out and make sure the fire was still going after I got a bit of a sprinkling last night. I thought I put out enough logs, but I wasn't sure. Just able to keep it going. There's a mixed bag of weather going on right now. There's rain clouds and blue sky. So the priority is going to be to keep this fire going, of course, as always. So throw another couple big logs on top of it.
That's the trick, actually. Actually, you know what? I'll shut up, because you're going to see what the trick is.
The thunder's rumbling like crazy in the distance, so I figure I'm going to play it safe and bring my fire inside. I actually put a big rotting stump on the outside fire to protect it from the rain and act kind of like an umbrella, which is what I was in northern Quebec with the Mistassini, with the Cree, and that's what they did. They would take big punky logs and put it over top of their fire before torrential downpour, and the fire would keep going. I've trimmed all of the top here, got away all the hanging pieces, things that are going to burn, stuff like that. And I've got all my twigs and branches and everything ready. Now, pretty much stick with small, thumb-sized sticks for this, maybe long ones. But the problem with this fire is you are having to feed it pretty much constantly. And that's why the big rotting stump works really well. That rain is coming. The sky is very black over there. Oh, I'm gonna get rained on again. I'm in here somewhere. Just a couple of big punky logs laid over top of my fire and just let to smolder and burn underneath, and pouring rain. It just poured on me, torrential downpour with thunder and lightning for about an hour and a half straight. And it has opened up to one big, beautiful sky, all blue. And my fire's still going. A lot of survival books go on about catching big game. I haven't even seen a mouse, let alone a grouse. And I saw one caribou and a flock of ducks, but they didn't really want to come over and visit me. So you're left with the main fare, a snail and 2 leeches, or as I like to affectionately call them, lunch and dinner.
Eating things that crawl can take some getting used to, but it comes easy if you haven't eaten for days. It's all about getting over plate fright, but often even the most squeamish can handle the grossest once you're hungry enough.
Here we have it. A meal fit for a king. So this is what's left of my snail after first cooking it on the stick and then putting it on a rock to.
Yeah, the idea was I was not going to eat, well, that's a snail, but with the leeches, I was not going to eat them without burning. I wanted them to be pretty charred because just parasites, which later on, I believe, as a lot of you know, I did get at some point, a pretty nasty parasite. But the more you cook your little critters, the less likely that's to happen.
Finished frying up there. It doesn't look like much. It'll have to do. Well, it's lacking a little garlic butter, but down it goes. Well, I'm stuffed. How about some leech dessert? Here we have it. My sun-dried and smoked 2 leeches, ready for the eating. Well, what are the realities of this situation? The realities are that trying for fish or big game, even squirrels, is a very difficult process. Don't expect to be lost for a couple of days and be bringing home some major meat unless you've got some gear with you. When you have nothing, it's very difficult. Fishing with a 2.5-foot line twisted off my shirt, it's not very ideal, even though I just saw a huge pike swimming right beside the shore. So you're left with, well, as I read one time, you're left with the gots-tos. There's the wants-tos and the gots-tos. There's the wants-tos, the stuff that you want to eat. And then there's the stuff that you gotta eat because you need sustenance. A little crispy. Tastes like chicken.
And there it is, the first of a few times you gotta see my butt on TV.
I found a rusty old tin can in the bush, and I'll try boiling in my hat. It's one of the few ways to heat water without a pot.
Now, if the question is,
These
where
rocks
would
been-
a rusty old tin can come from in the bush? Well, you know, for those of us who do a lot of wilderness traveling, there's a lot of stuff out there. Sometimes, literally, and it's illegal, but I know pilots that throw stuff out their window. Yep, true story. You find a beer bottle in the middle of nowhere. It may be that a pilot decided to have a beer while he was flying, and it does happen. Most of them don't because it's illegal. That bottle probably came out of a plane or maybe a passenger. I mean, dangerous and stupid, sure, but tin cans, different things you find in the middle of the bush. You walk in the bush and say, what is this doing here? And there's some sort of human object. How it got there, I'm sure there's a whole story behind it. But in this case, you know, I'm on the shore there somewhere. Maybe at some point, hunters have been dropped off at this lake going moose hunting. And maybe they camped even where I am. Who knows? But there was a tin can.
In the fire for a long time, they're red hot. And I'm putting them inside the hat here full of water. I've got blueberry leaves, I've got raspberry leaves. I've got some Labrador tea leaves. And I'm trying to get this to boil. I don't want to burn my hat. It's not a rolling boil by any means, but it might be enough to do the job. Well, I've got about 3 or 4 cups of stew here, or liquid anyway. What I would do is drink when it cools, I'll drink the liquid for the tea factor. I've got the Labrador tea in there, the peppermint, or not the peppermint, I wish there was peppermint in there, the blueberry and the raspberry. But I also put in this stuff here. I cut up the pond lily tubers. So let's see what that's like. And soft.
So I was able to get the water boiling using the hot rock method. It's an old traditional primitive method, primitive skills, earth skills. And it does work. Better if you can not have all the ash come in with the rock, as it kind of did in this case. But it definitely will eventually get a collection of water boiling. You should try it sometime. It works.
Anyway. Now see, I had pond lily tubers one time before. It was terrible. It's very bitter. We just roasted it in the fire. That's edible. Totally edible. It's kind of bland. Touch of bitterness to it, but it's full of starch. And I could use some of that right now.
As the plane searches overhead, unsure of where I might have moved to, it's time to see just how well my signal fire can work.
Think I'm rescued. Woo! The triangle tripod formation held up really well in the storm. It was blowing on all night. Thought it was gonna blow over, but it stood straight and strong. The boughs helped to shed the rain so the birch bark wasn't so wet. And I couldn't get this.
On this first attempt at documenting a survival ordeal, I've made it through the 7 days. It never ceases to amaze me how I can go through an experience that at the time seems like something I never want to do again. But then once back to normality, back to civilization and all its trappings, clutter, distractions, and emptiness, I find myself craving the soul-filling wilderness all over again. I miss the challenge. I miss the sweat. I miss the stark reality of providing for myself the basic needs of life. And the desire to test myself becomes strong, even insatiable. I desire to survive.
Kaboom. There we go. Wow. That's kind of weird. I have not watched that in so long. It's strange to see yourself like that. I mean, we are going back to, well, that was the year 2001. And I know that because I was editing this for the Daily Planet when 9/11 happened. And I remember actually calling in saying, hey man, if you want to, put a hold on this. Or I said, no, in a time like this, we need to keep some normalcy going. And so we forged forward and I continued the edit. But so that was 2001. And here we are, right now, the time of me doing this, talking to you, is 2025. So, there you go. That was 24 years ago. Bizarre. 24 years ago, and it started everything that it started. And the rest is history, as they say. Well, I think maybe now I'm finally at the end of my director's commentaries for Survivorman. Survivorman, Bigfoot as well. I think those are all done. So next up are my Beyond Survival ones, and I'll work on those. And also Snowshoes in Solitude. I haven't done that one yet as well. So thanks for hanging out with me, guys. We got a few more coming yet and having some fun with this. And take note, too, that on the channel I've put... you can see season 1, episodes 1 all the way through 6, back to back, episodes 7 through 12, and then I'm doing the same thing for the other seasons. So I'm going to keep at it. Don't forget to join the campaign, the Bigfoot campaign, The Question of Bigfoot, that film. And other than that, we get to the 1 million subs, and yep, you'll get one of these, brand new. I'll see you guys. I'll turn you off.
Two, three.
They paved paradise with a parking lot. Put up big hotels, boutiques, and swinging hot spots. Well, don't it always seem to go? You don't know what you've got till it's gone. Paved paradise with a parking lot. Hey farmer, put away your DDT now. Leave the spots on my apples, but give me the birds and the bees. Don't it always seem to go? You don't know what you've got till it's gone. Paved paradise with a parking lot. Paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Last week I heard a gavel slam. Man from the government took away all my land. Don't it always seem to go? Don't know what you've got till it's gone. Paved paradise with a parking lot. Paved paradise and put up a parking lot. Don't it always seem to go? Don't know what you've got till it's gone.